Hi, I'm Jeremy Garcia, and welcome back to Wages of Cine's 31 Days of Horror. As a filmmaker, I often look to other films for my inspiration and what inspires me, ideas in films, scenes in films, and I wanted to take this opportunity and through the next few reviews to touch on one of the shows that really inspired me when I was younger and that probably helped in leading me to becoming a filmmaker. And that show is, of course, the Twilight Zone. Now, the Twilight Zone, if you're a stranger to it, is kind of an anthology series. I don't think that many of them really connect together, but I mean, they're famous for presenting these sci-fi worlds and concepts that have been mimicked and imitated through pop culture and the like up until today, since they aired in the 50s. And I wanted to touch on 3 episodes in particular. This episode will focus on probably my favorite out of the bunch, and it's Nightmare at 20,000 Feet, starring William Shatner.
There's a man out there.
Now, this episode is one of the ones where whenever the Sci-Fi Channel is doing a marathon of the Twilight Zone, I will always look this up to see when this episode is playing. And it's just so interesting. This episode within itself has been copied. Most notably, you might recognize it from, again, my favorite Treehouse of Horror from The Simpsons, the Gremlin, Nightmare at 2.5 feet, I think.
Otto, you gotta do something. There's a gremlin on the side of the bus.
No problemo, Bart dude. I'll get rid of it.
No! Oh no, I just made my last payment. Ooh.
So basically the synopsis of this episode is we open on William Shatner, a husband and father, who is getting out of an insane asylum, having suffered a mental break 6 months prior on an airplane. We start the episode with Shatner's character boarding another airplane to head back home with his wife. Of course, he's freaked out since he had his mental break on an airplane 6 months ago. He's obviously freaked out and kind of anxious and everything. So this is how we open our episode. But basically through the course of the flight, and in Shatner's flight, he's plagued by a gremlin on the side of the plane. Now, gremlins. It's not your typical gremlin like you see in the movie. It's an actual bear-looking man in a suit. But the gremlin is basically the biggest troll ever, in that every time someone else is about to look through the window, he jumps away or floats away or something like that. And in the meantime, while Shatner is looking at him, he's constantly fiddling with the engines of the plane on the wing, basically trying to crash the plane. One of my favorite parts of this episode is when William Shatner's desperately trying to describe to his wife. He's finally can't keep his silence anymore. He's trying to convince her that he's not crazy. And he's like, I know how this looks. I know it must seem that I'm crazy, but please try and believe me. And what he does is kind of go into the lore of this creature that it might be, and he starts to bring up, oh, this is World War II pilots. Fighters, fighter pilots in the war, they had stories of gremlins sabotaging their planes and things like that, and that's just a really cool idea that this lore and this creature is there, and that now maybe the war's over, so now these gremlins are plaguing commercial airlines and things like that. But and that's just really cool. It's cool when. It's really neat when the world is built, and even in these episodes, 24 minutes long, this gremlin I don't think is mentioned anywhere else in the Twilight Zone, and yet in that 24 minutes, they can establish with good dialogue, they can establish the lore of this creature, and that's really cool to me. But I don't want to spoil it. But basically, in the end, the plane kind of lands. I guess that's a spoiler. I'm sorry, but they're taking William Shatner away, and the camera does this really cool drop from Shatner. It's kind of a crane, and it kind of booms down to reveal that the wing was pulled up, that the wing where the gremlin was fiddling was pulled up and kind of pried open. And that's just really cool because you, in your mind, you know, everybody's, by the end of it, you still could question, oh, is he insane? Because every time the pilot looks out or someone else looks out, the damaged engine compartment seems fixed. It doesn't seem tampered with. But it's really cool, that last reveal shot showing the damage on the wing, and it's kind of like, you're kind of like, okay, it wasn't crazy. Like, these creatures exist, or these creatures in this world, these creatures exist, and that's a creepy thing to have that tangible. It's that camera and the director revealing, like, no, he wasn't crazy. This is real, and that's a really, really creepy thing, and that's probably why I get the most enjoyment. Is probably because of that last shot and that lore established in there of these gremlins. If you haven't seen it, I highly encourage you to check it out, and then watch that, and then go watch The Simpsons Treehouse of Horror. I cannot remember which episode it is, or which season it is, but it's probably my favorite Treehouse of Horror, and it's my all-time favorite Twilight Zone, and I love it. Go watch it. Tune into whatever is tomorrow, who knows, and stay tuned for the next Twilight Zone review. We'll see you next time.